All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody, welcome. This is Omari Kamal, founder and CEO of P&G Advisors. The P&G stands for Profit and Growth. And like you'll hear about in just a moment, that's what we're all about. I am what most people refer to as an accountant, but in actuality, I'm what you would call a contract CFO. And all that means is that you are, we are, we hold ourselves, let me say it this way, singularly accountable for the success of small businesses, the small businesses that we have the opportunity to work with. And one of the things that I found in the course of my traverses and interactions with small business owners is that they very seldom have a trusted group of advisors that are able to jump in at any given moment and provide them guidance and support in the areas that they need it the most. And what we started just last week. So for those of you who are with us, I acknowledge that we are 18 minutes late for this. And if you've been waiting, thank you so much for waiting. And if you've not been waiting, you're listening to the recording, you're like, I was waiting on you on your show. I apologize. Hopefully you can appreciate the recording. But the intention is to bring together for you the most talented group of people. I'm affectionately referring to them as the board. And that was born of a brilliant book I invite you all to read called Barbarians at the Gate. And there's this classic scene where the board of the top of some of the top 50 companies in the world was sitting around giving this one CEO guidance about how to make his next billion. And something about that just occurred to me as an iconic scene. And then the question arose for me of, wow, how many small business owners have a trusted board of advisors of people who've been around, who've seen some things, who have some experiences and a special kind of expertise to provide in a certain area that's needed? And of course, the immediate answer was none. No small business owners have that kind of ability to them. So I said, well, why not to create that? Why not create an opportunity to come together to hear from some of the best and brightest minds that at least I have the privilege of engaging with. So that said, here we are on our second episode of the board. And who we have is Attorney Shar Kamal, small business attorney extraordinaire. Hey, Shar, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. You're welcome. We have big brother, almighty Charles Clemens from Lexus Wealth Management, investment manager, wealth manager extraordinaire. How's it going, sir?
Well, thanks for having me.
Good. You're welcome. And then there's all things, pass things on to the next generation in a tax-friendly, smooth, avoiding probate kind of way, estate planning attorney extraordinaire, Kendall Anderson. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, man. Like that, pleasure to have you all here. So, look, I want to. So this is for everybody listening as well as for those of you, Shar, Ken, Charles. This is going to be a really fluid conversation. So I want you to just take a moment, and for the people that haven't heard from you before, especially you, Charles. I'm going to start with you, Charles, too, but just because you weren't with us last week. So I just want to just go around robin and just say a little bit for what you do, and in particular, what's the more interesting thing you found in your work with small business owners that you've been able to make the biggest difference in terms of helping with?
Okay. Well, again, I'm Charles Clemens. I'm a managing partner with Lexus Wealth Management. We custody right now for just about $80 million. That's between three partners. Myself here in Chicago, there's one in Atlanta, there's one at our home office, per se, in Omaha. As it relates to small businesses, I think where I have my greatest impact, I believe, is just in showing them how to position assets to grow outside of their own natural environment. I mean, Omari and I had a really good conversation some time ago about small business owners and how they want to invest really in themselves. And that is a legitimate position to take as a small business. How do I grow what it is that I do? However, in the spirit of diversification, it is incumbent upon small businesses to grow assets outside of themselves as well. And so my job is to make sure that they do that, and they do it in the most productive fashion available to them. And that could mean a myriad of different things. That could mean 401k. It could mean SEP IRA, simple IRA. It could mean life insurance. It could mean buy-sell agreements for smaller firms that are on the move. It could mean a number of different things. But the conversation that we facilitate, I think, is the most important part of it all when it comes to running a small business. Because the hopes is that it won't always be small. And so how do we start looking at scale and what that means from an investment perspective? Where do I put assets, and how do I create some kinds of partnerships to some degree in asset placement? So where I think that's where I have my greatest impact, showing folks how to move assets out of their natural environment, if you will, into something that might support them further down the road.
Yeah. No, I get it, Charles. And just a bit of background, everybody. Charles and I were financial advisors together years ago. And his now partners are the guy who actually trained me at a critical point in my trajectory as a financial advisor at Barry Carter, who has a significant amount to do with a lot of anything that I might say that might seem smart probably comes from Barry Carter at some point or another. And this is my second time. What's our brother's name, Charles? He'll smack me if he.
Earl Johnson.
Earl Johnson. Earl Johnson was our former boss back in the day. I don't know if you want to call it boss. He was our manager, and Charles and I we had a great time developing our I should say redevelop practices. We neither of us were necessarily new to the industry back then, but we were new to that particular company. We built a lot of what we both built as respective practices today. And a lot of what you'll hear from me actually comes from kind of like you heard Charles kind of point to and intimate our experiences together, seeing people working with small business owners and actually seeing them make those critical decisions of like, okay, do I invest in a mutual fund, a stock, a bond, or what have you? Or do I invest in myself? And for some of you all listening, the answer may seem pretty obvious in the sense of like, well, of course I'm going to invest in myself. Well, that is true, and you should. But the question is, to what degree, how much, and what should you be looking at in terms of an end result? And so one of the things that Charles is absolutely, absolutely brilliant at is helping people to put a number to their hopes, their goals, their dreams, their wishes, and then putting all of that into an appropriate context in order for them to figure out where the next step is, and the next step is, and the next step is, and the next step is. And he's somebody who I would refer all of my small business clients to, who are needing that kind of support and structure for themselves. He's just an absolutely brilliant man. So Cassie, thank you, Chuck. I appreciate you, man. And we're going to get into the subject in just a moment, but I want to say to Cassie and Dre, I'm so sorry for starting late. I acknowledge, like we said, we're going to start at 1. We did start at 1. You didn't get the link when you said you're going to get the link. Not an excuse, but this is our second week out, and we're building something here. I don't really like that expression, building the plane as we fly, but there's no question we're building this thing. And we're just dancing today. And I really do intend that this would be a really fluid, free-flowing conversation. Abdullah is hanging in the background. He's waving to you, Dre. Hey, Cassie, y'all met before, but he's sent this out to all of our clients, and people have been getting back excited to hear from us, and are excited to hear from us on an ongoing basis. This idea of having a board of advisors, each of them for their own form that they can tap into in any context for whatever they might be needing, whether it's financial advice, whether it's estate planning, whether it's selling their business. Sister Christina is going to be on with us in future weeks, whether it's small business law with Attorney Kamal down there, or whether, and look, everybody, I don't throw this word around a lot, but there, in certain contexts and certain genres and industries and specialties and whatnot, there are gurus. There are people who, when they open their mouths and begin to talk to you about what it is they know. And in this case, about the world of marketing and digital marketing and strategy and structure, and ultimately taking your business from where it is now to where it ultimately wants to be in terms of exposure and obtaining new clients and generating leads and adding a level of predictability to your business that's never, ever been there before. There's nobody that does it better than Cassie and Dre. And Cassie, I'm so grateful for y'all just being on, just to share a little bit. And I couldn't dream of doing anything like this without at least asking you to be a part. So I wonder if you just say a little bit about TBM and the world of what y'all have been up to for the last several years and how it is that you all help folks.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Babe.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, thank you for
Absolutely.
having us on here. We are so honored to be here with you and all of these amazing professionals working in this really hard entrepreneurial world. Right?
Yeah.
What's up, Abdullah? What's happening, everybody on the behind the scenes world?
I love waving from the back.
Family. Thank you for that. It is, I guess they say if you spot it, you got it. So
that's funny.
Absolutely. So, go ahead,
TBM.
TBM.
So TBM, some people know us about it, about us in the very early days when we were, championing Black-owned businesses with our directory and marketplaces and store. And we're still doing that. That is still what we do. That is our mission. But we decided to change the model. And our model right now inside of digital marketing is having a super CRM that is AI powered, period. Right? We're moving in a really, really fast-paced world, and small businesses have to be able to keep up with the big guys. And mostly because small businesses really are what keeps this world going and what keeps America going. And people really don't know it. And we don't need them to be going in and out of businesses just because they don't have the simple processes and systems in place. And now we have this wonderful technology that will do that for you in a blink of an eye, something that would usually take, 6 to 12 months to be able to put together. Now can be done in a matter of hours, maybe weeks, when you want to just really fine tune that thing perfectly. But you can supercharge your business and be able to be sustainable because of AI and automation. So that's what we specialize in.
Yeah. We all have put in the work and in, learning how to fine tune, learning how to optimize, learning how to build systems and SOPs, and all of those things are still necessary.
Right.
And, but today we have technology that will do so much of the heavy lifting for, right? There are very many things that AI won't be able to replace, human connections, but certainly there are things like repetitive tasks, phone calls, answering calls, booking appointments, responding, sending emails, text messages, DMs, all of those types of things. Get yourself out the way. Like, do yourself a favor and allow yourself to spend some CEO time, right? Jumping on calls like this as opposed to answering calls that your receptionist could do for you.
Love it. Okay, good.
Sit and have your cat in the background and it just make us and touch our heart because it's beautiful. Piece of life is just entered, right?
We got a whole nother story about that cat, Cassie. So just we ain't got time right now. It's actually 2 though, by the way. If you look at her,
I saw the other one just peek out like I'm here too.
No, but that's perfect that you would tie that into what you just said about living life and fully and whatnot. But that's Brett, and I want to come back to that. And that's actually, I'm so glad y'all couldn't have set me up better. I want to come back exactly to that point that you all are just making in just a moment. But Shar, if you could just say a little bit about your work, what you do, how you work with small business owners, and like that.
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me be part of the Board of Advisors. I think this is an amazing offering to people who are really looking for that additional support and guidance from individuals who really have the capacity, the expertise to be able to help guide them through this process of growing their business. I've been practicing law for almost 23 years now, and I work with many small businesses, mostly in the area and space of real estate. But how I guess make my biggest impact is by helping clients kind of see the larger picture in terms of how an attorney can assist them, but the legal perspective and aspect of their business. And certainly as they scale, you want to make sure you set the right foundation. So choosing the right legal structure, right? Making sure that you have formalize your ownership and governance documents. Do you have an operating agreement or corporate bylaws? Are you actually paying attention to what you've put in place? And is that document actually guiding your business operations? Do you have the right people on board? Do you have a board of directors? Who is it comprised of? Do you have members who are aligned with the vision and mission of the company? Are they doing things that are in the best interests of your company? If you're operating on your own, are you aware of the risks associated with that, right? Are you taking on too much? Do you need to have other people in place or systems set up to, make sure that your risks are and your liabilities are lower, right? Are you protecting your intellectual property? We have a lot of clients who are doing a lot on social media, a lot online. Do they have proper protections in place for social media, for intellectual property that they might be putting out there? Reviewing and tightening contracts. Do you have templates that you can use instead of creating, contracts every time you need them? Do you have a set of templates that you can use that, makes it a little easier for you to engage with your partners, your vendors, your clients? Also make sure that, clients are really taking a look at their regulatory compliance. Are they in compliance with government regulations? As you grow, things change, right? Are you in compliance in taking a look at your employment and labor laws, especially if you have lots of employees? Once you start, it may be just you. Once you grow, you got to look at the business a little differently. So I'm looking at things from the bird's eye perspective and certainly from a legal perspective. And that's how I make my biggest impact with my clients. So I would advise that you have at least an annual meeting with your attorney, your counsel, to make sure that you are every year taking all of these things into consideration as you grow and evolve.
Love it. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Awesome. Kendall, same question for you, sir. What from an estate planning attorney's vantage point need small business owners be considering for themselves as they plan for the future?
Thanks for that, Omari. I'm going to be going on and off of mute because unlike Omari, who's a cat owner, a happy cat owner, I have two Yorkies who think they're pit bulls and got construction going on in the background. So, with that being said, to simplify it, because I'm originally from Mississippi, my job as a estate planning attorney is to help people see blind spots. As you know, as any entrepreneur knows, running a business is more than doing your expertise. If you have a grass cutting business, cutting grass is probably going to be the easiest part of that. Going to see your real estate attorney, going to see your tax attorney, going to see somebody who helps you scale up. That team is what you need, because we do this every day and we're able to quickly see areas that you're overlooking, and we can do it with a lot less stress and angst that you do because you have a lot of other things to take care of. Basically, I'm here to help you keep and pass on what you make. I don't think people just make money for no reason. So that's my job, to look at what you're getting, make sure you can keep it, and make sure you can pass it on to the people you love.
Love it. And I don't know what that means. I'm from the South, so I'm making sense. I'm from Mississippi too, and I don't feel any great notion of being compelled to make things simple for people. But I hear you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the work you do. Kendall is my very best friend in the world. We go all the way back to the Navy together. And I really want you all to see the real side of this too. So Cassie and Dre are just two people who I just fell instantly in love with years and years ago, and I've been dissing admired there, and it's my pleasure to even work with them now. Charles, again, is somebody who I've made fast friends with, and really we cut our teeth together as financial advisors and came into sort of an awareness of our particular what our particular brand of financial advice wanted to be. We trained under a guy, I don't know how old school you all are. Y'all may remember a guy named Darwin Yarborough from back in the day. And there was a guy named Patrice Coleman. And they worked for this company called Waddell and Reed. And they made a great living for themselves back in the early 80s, late 70s, when insurance companies wouldn't insure Black folks, and they wouldn't provide financial advice to Black folks because we didn't have any money, and there was no point in marketing to us. And these two men said, you know what? No, our people have some money. We are the most resourceful people on the planet. And they made an entire financial advisory practice just working in our communities and in our spaces and whatnot. So much so that people think around the country, correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, that Waddell and Reed is a Black company. It's not. And they did that all right here in Chicago, and were the impetus for so many great financial planning organizations that have a large Black presence within them. And so Charles and I spent a good deal of time talking about what our version and our incarnation of that would be. And then with Dre and Cassie, again, just they've always been people who, in my mind, were at the cutting edge of what it is to market pretty much anything, in particular with respect to what it takes for Black-owned businesses to come together and to grow themselves and scale themselves. And when they actually started holding themselves out as consultants, I was like blown away, and actually provide a resource and a tool to take an otherwise complicated set of processes in terms of contact relationship management, in terms of digital marketing, email marketing, marketing on the web, and all of that which comes with that content marketing, the world of that, and the various ways in which those things connect and how they need to exist as a matter of process with each other, is just so an expression for them. I greatly appreciate it. And, it goes without saying that my partner in life and love, I mean, it's so cool to be able to have these types of conversations with her, not just in terms of what they mean for us personally, but in terms of the very unique way in which we can express ourselves, in terms of making a difference for the kind of folks that we want to deal with. It's amazing. And so the people you don't see, I could wax poetic on them as well. Christina Wynn, business broker extraordinaire, Candy Keys Winford, commercial insurance agent extraordinaire. And who am I missing? I know I'm missing at least one person. They're going to be mad at me. But anyway, other people, we're wanting to have this thing be, this group be as complete as possible, because what my work wants to be about is, yes, on one level, helping to make sure that the books are clean and that you have a set of financial statements that you can use and utilize to grow your business and to gain real insight into your business. But the way our business works is that we don't like to just throw you a set of fancy financial statements, say, here, congratulations on getting yourself organized. We want to make sure that you know what those numbers mean, and that the perspective that you have on your business, and by perspective, I mean that most small business owners, they understand revenue and expenses. You got to make money. You got to spend money. They understand profits and losses. You understand assets, liabilities, owner's equity. But what we want you to understand is the concept of value, like how, whether you realize or not, your business has a value to it, not unlike any fancy piece of art you have, or real estate, jewelry. Like, your business is an asset. And some of you all are nodding your heads and be like, I know it's an asset. Like, no, take the case. You don't really know it's an asset. Now, when I say asset, like a real asset that has a capability of producing cash flow for you, that has a life of its own. Like, if you step back away from it, the business could run on its own. Now, I know for most of you all listening to this, it's not doing that right now, but just because it's not doing it right now doesn't mean that it can't do it at some point or another. And so what our work is really about is starting off with the finances, because if you're interested in a systems run business, a business, like what I call a real business, like a business that can run without you, you're also interested in measuring things. And the first thing you have to measure is your money. But once you finish measuring your money, you have to measure everything else. Like, our work is about putting a scorecard, or helping you to create a scorecard where you can start to measure your and this is where Cassie and Drake come in, your leads generated, your contacts, your lead conversion, your show rate, your close rate, and all your cost per click, cost per lead, your return on ad spend, all that stuff is necessary and needed in order for you to drive the financials. So we need to know that first, actually. So even though I'm saying like, yeah, let's get your books in order, I can also say that the best prepared set of financial statements are at best lagging indicators. Like you need to probably talk to Dre and Cassie first in order to help us drive the numbers. At some point or another, you're going to come across somebody crazy. That's where Omari Kamal comes in. You're going to deal with a bad customer. Somebody's going to have a slip and fall. Something's going to happen. You need to make sure that you're guarded from that. That was also Candy Keys Winford on the insurance side of things. And then at some point or another, after we show you how to be profitable and if we show you how to entertain, how to achieve value, like a real valuation that is a match for what you want your business to do for you, then you're going to have to talk to Charles to figure out what to do with all that money. And then likewise, when we start to plan for your real financial freedom, where you're working because you want to, not because you have to, educating your children, leaving a legacy for the people that you in the organizations and the institutions that you love. That's where Kendall comes in, and he's going to show you a very tax efficient way in order to do all that. And it's not enough to wait until the point to start to educate yourself about these concepts. We have to start learning about them right now. And that's what this group is designed to do. So we're going to dig into these various subjects in great length because there's a lot. There's just gargantuan amounts of information that there is for us to plow through. But the topic for the day, so you all remember, for those of you who were with us last week, we started talking about this subject, or we ended up on this subject of what is the difference between growth and scale. And I invite you just to take a moment and just kind of ponder that question for yourself. And let me just give you a hint. You're not going to come up with an immediate answer right now, but it's something that we're going to inquire into together in the coming weeks. What is the difference between growth and scale? You can grow your company, but does that necessarily mean you've scaled? You can get more customers, more clients, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can actually handle them all. Or you could have more cash in the bank, but do you necessarily know where you got it from? And is it important to know that? So I want to begin to dig into that. And the reason why I'm suggesting that that's so important, because, and this is what I want all of y'all's feedback on, we're in the age of AI now. And I'm so glad. And I couldn't have set it up any perfectly than Cassie and Dre, you all building it up and putting that out there. But I want to begin to dig into that with you all a little bit here. And the first question is one of, so let me say this. It's not so much a question, it's more of a statement. I think we're all beyond the point of being scared of AI. And if we are scared, it's more a point of being scared of that we're either behind or that we missed out or we don't know where to get the proper kind of information for. But I think the real question that I want to ask is, how quickly should we be moving inside of and towards this? And I think for some people, it may show up as an obvious answer. But the thing that scares me is that there's so much work being done around it. There's so much that's being engaged. My personal belief is that the way in which the game got changed when the internet and technology got created in like the late 90s, early 2000s, everybody, we're at another one of those levels like right now. But I don't even know if what happened from 97, 98, 99, 2000 to 2001, 2002 on, where you and I, we can't even leave the house without going back to get our phones if we forget it now. That's just where we're at. It's just nobody questions that. But we're about to make another tantamount jump to like, we won't be able to recognize how things work for us right now versus how they're about to be. So whoever be willing to jump in, like, okay, from your vantage point within your sphere, how's AI impacted what you're up to, and why do people need to like be dealing with themselves around this like yesterday?
I'm gonna jump in real quick because this is the AI guy and I need to get it out before he goes, right? Right now, it's so important that we have actually teamed up with, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Patrick Young or Baba Zakia, however you know him, of Urban Tech Academy, to do a youth AI camp. It's going to be a 12-week camp, and we're teaching them right now from ages 16 to 24. I wish he was approved for even younger. To camp so that they can start learning this stuff right now. That's how fast it's moving. That's how impactful that it is, you know, as a part of our lives and as a part of business. And as you talk about the difference between growth and scalability.
Yeah, certainly. We have our children are teaching their elder family members how to use AI, right? There is, how necessary is it? I don't, unless the grid shuts down and electricity goes away, don't expect it to stop moving forward. And the faster that you can get a grip on it, get your hands dirty, learn some part of it. You don't have to become a prompt engineer. Certainly not now, because prompt engineering is obsolete, right? But you don't have to become an expert, but you do have to get some experience so that as it moves forward, you can be at least in the car while it's moving forward, while it's driving, right? So we have to get involved like right now. We got to get involved right now, brother. It's changing the way that we do everything. Everyone that's here today. Templates are being generated and auto-populated in the legal profession, right? Data mining is taking place. Fintech is, having its boom in the financial industry, right? Marketing, of course, is moving forward and being automated, and customer communication and relationship management is totally being handled by AI. So it's touching everything that each and every one of us do. And I don't believe that there's a sector that it won't actually touch. So get in now.
Shara was just telling me the other day about how even as a lawyer on the other side of her practice, being real estate, how there'd be these inspection reports she would have to scour over. Shara, you want to just speak to that?
I mean, inspection reports can be lengthy, as you can imagine, especially depending on the size of the home. And it would take, sometimes 15, 20, 30 minutes to review some of these reports. And now, you can plug them into ChatGPT or what have you, and it'll spit out a whole synopsis of this report in, 5 seconds. And, while you have to be careful, and this is where I think the risk comes in, it makes mistakes too, and it can oversee and interpret documents in a way that they're not meant to be interpreted, and there still needs to be a real voice behind that document that can counsel the client on what to do next, right? ChatGPT can't do that, right? So it's important to take control of these systems and make sure that we are putting the human face on our service to the client, from my standpoint. But it does make my job as an attorney much easier, and allows for me to use that time to be with the client, and not have to spend that time looking at documents. But it does make a difference. But we just do need to make sure we take control and grab the reins on this thing, because it is out of control in a great many respects.
Omari, can I jump in and piggyback off what Shara said? I was one of those attorneys, because I have so much going on, who was very afraid of AI. I was like, oh, it's going to take my job. I better figure out how to do some plumbing or something like that. But what I came to realize is AI is just a tool. Before AI, we had to get a calculator, and then a computer, and not a cell phone. And my grandfather used to say, it's bad to know just enough to be dangerous. So if you're using these tools and you don't realize what you're doing, as Shara brought out, you could really get yourself in trouble. It's like I said, it's just a tool. I could get tools to go do surgery, but I would give you pause to allow me to take your kidney or your gallbladder out. So I would definitely encourage you to get dirty, as was said earlier, to learn. But try to stay in your lane also, because getting into some things you're not really trained in could get you in trouble, but definitely utilize it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, Charles, it's funny you should say that, because Charles, you and I are old enough to remember when the internet boom first happened and how it impacted financial advice, where everybody and their grandmother thought that, oh man, I could just do all my research online and I don't need any advice anymore. Do you see another version of that coming, or is this something else people need to be cognizant of in this advent of AI?
I think there's a version of it kind of happening. I think there's always a version of that happening. There's always a sector or a some kind of a new thing that people feel will enable them to attack this process more expediently, more efficiently, or just cheaper. And it doesn't always translate that way. You know, I think a lot of what we do from a financial advisory perspective is not so much which tool is not so much what tools are available,
Yeah.
but what tool do I use for this job? You know, what tool is most effective at handling this particular job? You know, what is it that I'm trying to truly accomplish? And I say all the time, you know, a lot of people have a lot of tools. You know, I got a tool bag at home, right? I'm not a carpenter, but I got a bunch of random stuff, right? I got a drywall knife. I got all kinds of craziness, right? But here's the thing: can I go build a house? No, I cannot. And so it just really puts in perspective that there are a lot of things that are out there. To Shara's point, you know, enough to be dangerous. I know enough about a circular saw to be dangerous. You know, and then you know, but I'm not building homes. You know, and so the question becomes: if I've got all of these pieces, how do I bring them together to build the thing that I'm ultimately trying to build? And I think that's where our expertise really shines. It's putting that humanity into it. You know, again, as Shara alluded to, you know, it's how do I make it all work? Charles, I got a whole bunch of stuff. How do I make it all work?
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it is. So, yeah.
No, that's a good point. Dre, you have something?
Yeah, my daughter, you know, she was at the beginning of, she's in her freshman year of college, right? And at the beginning of last semester, so she just wrapped up her first year. And at the beginning of last semester, her professors were warning them about the usage of AI, right? They were having conversations around not to become overly dependent, not to be, you know, not to let it do all of the work for you. By the beginning or the middle of this second semester, the conversation had completely changed to one of this isn't, your degree no longer speaks to your competency around time management or what you know in your head. The degree now speaks to your ability to the wherewithal you have to find the solution, to be able to find the tool and use the tool, to your point, right? Or to Brother Charles's point, like, you got a bunch of tools. Who of you is going to demonstrate that you will find the right tool, learn to use that tool, and then execute using that tool, right? Deliver using that tool. So his point to her was, what used to take you 30 hours to write, right? Your final exam used to take you 30 hours to write. I don't expect it to take you that anymore. I expect it to take you 3 hours. I want you to prompt AI to write the paper for you. Right. I want you to spend 30 minutes to an hour editing it, and then I want you to turn it in. And those of you that spend 30 hours to do that one paper, you're going to fail. But those of you that can produce 10 papers in that 30 hours, you will be the ones that will succeed in the long run. So, you know, the game is changing for real.
It is. And then that's why I would like challenge something that Ken said a moment ago, and I think somebody else did as well, in the sense of that, I don't know that it's just a tool, or even to whatever degree it is, that it'll remain just a tool. Like, there's this concept that's been studied and bandied about, I want to say since the 60s and 70s. It's called Moore's Law. And it's a simple law. It basically says that capacity, you're familiar with this, right, Jay? Where like transistor capacity, or basically technological capacity, effectively doubles once every 2 years. And they've tested the thing out and found that it's completely true. But what it did was it brought to mind a question. And the question is, at what point will the intelligence of computers and technology exceed that of human beings? And then what is the implication of that? And it gets into this whole other kind of abstraction of thought called the what is that thing called? The synchronicity, the
Singularity.
singularity, exactly.
Singularity.
Singularity, where there's going to be this fusion of technology and humanity and thought and consciousness and whatnot. It really, y'all, think about as advanced as our phones are, as our iPads are, our technology is. I was at Whole Foods the other day and I held my hand over a scanner and my son was like, "What is that?" I was like, "Oh, that's how they're doing credit cards now. You just hold your hands over a scanner and it reads your palm and says, 'Thank you for being an Amazon Prime customer.' Takes the money right out of my account, pays for the groceries." That's how we're doing it. How long is it going to be before we're putting chips into ourselves and our thoughts and computers and technology are seeing what we're seeing, hearing what we're hearing, and then without getting too much in the weeds for that, I'm posing the question: what does that mean for our work? Not just for those of us who are on this call, but those of you who are listening who are business owners. What does this mean for you and your work? No, I would say to you, there are some of you who are going to be put out of work. There are some of you who are going to have to radically shift and change how it is you approach your occupation and what it is that's made you money now. And yes, should you be thinking about how to use this tool to expand your current efforts? Yes, but I would suggest to you that there's going to be such a radical shift at some point or another. I heard this interesting statistic not very long ago, and it just jarred me for some reason. It said 8% of the nation's population today are farmers, in juxtaposition with the fact that 80 years ago, 80% of the nation's populace were farmers. You think about how radical that is. In a lifetime of one human being, we've gone from 80% farming to 8%. And now what that means for us educationally, how we organize ourselves, how we look at ourselves, how we view ourselves, and we're looking at another radical shift. Now, think about how many of our uncles and aunts and moms and dads worked in factories and worked blue collar type of things. And now we in our generation, we're mostly service-based. But even if a lot of the service-based mechanisms are now about to go away, what does that mean for the future of work for us? How are we going to interact and engage with each other? What's going to be the next level? Now, I'm one who's optimistic about what it could be, even though I have no idea what it's going to look like. But I'm just curious, you all's thoughts. I mean, we'll pause it right here at this point. We have to leave some kind of cliffhanger for people to kind of check in and tune in with us next week about. But just final thoughts on this subject. What do we need to be concerned about, if not with respect to the future of work? I mean, I think you all are touching on it. I want you to say a little bit more about what do we need to be dealing with for ourselves from your particular vantage point, through the lens that you look at, particularly from a small business standpoint, having to do with AI, having to do with scaling our operations, that might be tough, but true. What do you say?
Well, I guess going back to your thought about growth and scaling, we as a society are growing, but AI is, are we able to handle the scale of what AI presents for us, right?
Yeah.
And I would say, in the position that we are, I mean, we have the system in place, but I don't know that we are equipped yet to handle what's in front of us. And I think that's what scares even the creators of this thing.
Yeah, clear.
Yeah, I would say the next big shift in how we work. We should be preparing for the Uber of professional services. Right? AI will replace a lot of what we do, even on the more advanced professional services side, and professional services will start to get gigged out, where they're going to have to plug in as an attorney or plug in as a financial advisor in smaller segments to support what AI is doing and not the other way around.
Yes, and to your point, Dre, I mean, you mentioned, these templates that AI can create. Do we still understand how to interpret and articulate what the document now says? Do you know how it's enforceable? The loopholes that are in that document, so that you can either exit it cleanly or even make it enforceable. So I mean, really understand it. Regardless of who created
You're breaking up, Sean.
understand.
Attorney Kamal, I would say do your best not to put to make sure that you turn off training of your AI model, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more you train and inform the AI model, the more it will know about how to interpret, enforce, and apply, right? Because it's learning from you in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, cool. Charles, any final reflections for you, sir? Uh-oh.
Well, I'm not trying to be a dissenting voice here.
No, you should be. We need some disagreement on this thing.
I am not as thrilled about this as it seems that most people are. I don't know. I'm just not. I've seen Terminator. I don't know if you guys have seen Terminator. I've seen this movie. I see how it is. I don't know. I'm being facetious here, but I mean, I don't know. AI is an interesting progression for us, and I'm not sure if we understand what it is we're building, and I think that is probably my chief concern. I mean, I'm gonna say this, and maybe you guys will understand. I went to McDonald's today. And remember when McDonald's used to be a family environment?
Mm-hmm.
It used to be. Yeah. I went into McDonald's today. There is a service kiosk where you can order your whatever it is you want, and they don't even pay attention to you at the desk until you order at the kiosk. Mm-hmm. It is bland. It is cold. It is completely different from what we knew, and I think that is a very interesting and again, kind of a leading indicator, as Omari kind of used that terminology earlier. It's a leading indicator as to what we're getting into. We are quickly moving humanity out of places where we've classically held position, and we're replacing it with computers. And the question becomes, what will people do? What I mean, all of us on this call right now, theoretically in 5 years are replaced with a computer. And I don't know that I champion that, if I'm being honest. I think that we live in a world of humanity that in the effort to produce profit, we are moving people out of position and replacing them with computers. And it's purely for profit. I mean, that's just my personal stance on this. Again, I don't want to be the dissenter necessarily, but I just don't.
Because if we gonna keep this thing going, it's gonna require that we have some robust, sometimes loud, dissenting conversations, and we really work some things out. And I'm gonna say why in just a minute, but Dre, I want you to get your
brother Charles. I would say check out a flick called Tomorrowland. It's a Disney flick, right? And the moral of the story out of the chase, you've seen Tomorrowland, right? Which wolf wins? The one you feed, right? And I think as we look at AI, we can have the fatalistic, right, story that exists in Terminator, in the Matrix, right? We can see that outcome. We can also look at a world where, to your point, machines are driving profit, and you and I get to connect in a human way. We don't have to do this via Zoom because we're not obligated to in order for profitability, right? We can actually have our AI avatars having this conversation, and you and I could be sitting out, walking along Lakeshore Drive, having a real conversation, brother to brother, and where we're not bound to do that work. So, right, that's the extreme version of it, obviously, but there are other opportunities for creativity and connecting soul to soul that, this can create those opportunities if we choose to feed that wolf.
I think it offers a leveling of the playing field
Indeed.
in some, respects. But we've all got to be able to. We have to be able to humanize this as well, though, because I think that's all a part of business, right? Yeah. So I think there needs to be a part two to this conversation.
You read my mind, sweetheart, and that's why I love you. That's why I love Dre. That's why I love all y'all, because you all are reading my minds. I mean, and Charles too. In the sense of that. Look, this is going to go a number of ways, and we can either take our time, like trying to figure out how it's going to go, or we can craft it and try to impact it for ourselves. Like my personal vision, I'm not saying this is right. This is just my vision of it. It's taken something for me to kind of develop this, because Charles, I've been where you're at, and in a great many respects, I am where you're at in terms of what my fears are. I've self-terminated and every other like kind of AI run amok movie that we've had years and years ago. However, I also see opportunity. I'm going to confess something very quickly. I had maybe two or three like meal engagements, and not very, I think last time, like we were at the dinner earlier this week, one I had last night. And one of the things I noticed very powerfully, y'all, and I know this happens, and Shar accuses me of this all the time. Like I know I look at my phone a lot, but for some reason or other, at these last few dinner engagements, I found myself uncomfortably reaching for my phone, like in those dead zones, those moments where the conversation sort of dries up, nobody has anything to say. Instinctively, immediately, I will reach into my pocket, pull my phone out, and go to some very, not even thinking about it, predictable apps, and start to scroll in the stream. And I've noticed it this week enough to notice the amount, the pain, like me attempting to resist it in my mind. But my hand just keeps pulling it out, and the thumb keeps moving, and I'm sitting there having a conversation with myself, like you really should put the phone away, and I won't be able to put it away immediately. So I invite you all to take that exercise on for yourselves this week. Like when you notice yourself habitually reaching for your phone or whatever other piece of technology you use, actually putting it away in those moments where you know you don't need to use it in that moment, and then notice how much resistance is there for doing so.
Purposefully put it on the other side of the room so it's not right next to me in the morning when I wake up, because that is the first thing I'll look at. Check it, scrolling for news, email, all of that. It's on the other side of the room in the morning.
and put in place something to that effect. And what I want everybody to be thinking about between now and the next time we talk, and I believe the question for next week for us is going to be local economics. And whatever you think I mean by that, I probably don't mean that. I mean, for me, that's really my vision of what AI could provide for us. And it's part of the reason why I'm putting this whole thing in place, because I want us to get to the place where we're actually talking to each other again, because I believe that one of the things that AI is going to bring to bear is this opportunity for all of us to begin to engage with each other in a way that we've never quite been able to engage with each other before, ever. Like, and engage with the reality and the totality of who we are, because a lot of the things that we will have had to have been concerned for, and our parents and our grandparents, our great-great-great-great-great-grandparents had to be concerned for, just won't be there anymore. And there'll be an ability for us to engage with each other that just has never been there before. Think Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Think if ever there was a time for human beings to self-actualize, maybe, just maybe, this is the time, and the technology is supportive of that. Little rosy, little starry, I know, but why not? Why not have the conversation within that context and see what comes up of it within this particular group? Because one of the things that I'm committed to is that, starting with the small business community, that you all begin to see the real opportunity. So we have this game, and you all have heard me say it before, 10,000 small business owners with valuations of $10 million or more in the next 10 years. One of the things that I'm having to grapple with is that it may not take that long. When you start to sink your teeth into what it takes to really grow value at an enterprise level, supported by this concept of AI and everything else we have technologically to support us as we look to grow and scale, It may not be 10 years. Now, it won't have the ring to it. I kind of like the 10,000, 10 million, 10 years thing. But I'll take 2, 3, 4 years, so long as we reach a point, because once work has changed in our favor and we've begun to start businesses that are growing, that are scaling, and that are working as hard for us as we work for it. And a great preponderance of us don't have to worry about going and working our feet to the ground, our fingers to the bone anymore. What does that mean in terms of our ability to be able to have relationships with each other and reconnect with each other? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm grown enough to know that it won't happen automatically. It won't happen just because we want it to. We'll have to work towards it. But maybe just this is the work. And so the topic for next week is standing on what we created today. What can we begin to look towards in terms of creating economies unto ourselves and digging into the economics of community and what each of us, from a legal standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, from a mergers and acquisition standpoint, from an accounting standpoint, have to say about that. So everybody, I will make sure that everybody that listens to this has your contact information and knows how to reach you. Any final words? And you as technology, as profound as it is, people's phones can't quite hold, and computers are kicking them out of spaces. So it's just us three left. So anything, final reflections for either of you?
I'm excited about what's next week. I mean, I love, the different perspectives and the feedback. I think having, us from our different spaces and capacities chime in on this is powerful. And I'm hoping that those that are watching and following, you understand the beauty of that as well.
Yeah.
To infinity and beyond.
Absolutely. All right, my brothers. All right, Shaw, thank you so much, you too. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. We'll see you all next week. Next Thursday, 1 o'clock, the board meets again. Talk soon, y'all.
Talk soon.